Hi there. I wanted to show a replay that I recently did while playing Endymion, and I thought it would definitely be a insightful evaluation of how someone who would be going second as Endymion would come back from a giant setup that someone did on their first turn. Because in Master Duel, and probably some duels in real life, you're going to be seeing a lot of that. And honestly, I think that I would have lost, but thankfully the way that it went, that didn't happen. So this is what my opponent is playing. They're playing Virtual World, and it's definitely very hard to go over, let's just say that, because they put negate after negate after negate, and I believe as a meta deck they really want to disrupt and leave your opponent with no options. But thankfully, if you know what to do, there is always a way. So let me just show you my deck profile real quick, just so that you know. This is the same as my previous video, but in case you don't really care about that, I run the Spellbook package, which it usually consists of 2 blue boys, the Spellbook Prophecy guy, and then the Jackal stuff, along with Endymion. I'll leave most of the deck, the cards in the description. Apologies for the pause right there. But there you are. And the reasoning why I don't run some of the cards that you usually see in a lot of other decks like Magician Cells is because I don't want to spend that much. I want to conserve all the stuff, all the gems, because you never know if Konami is going to Foon Speed us more gems, or if they're going to starve us so that they can make a profit. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at this. I won't run it 2 times speed so that I'll be able to explain it on the go. I wish I was recording this live, but in duels like this, sometimes you just have to look back and see what I did right and what I did wrong. Alright, so they're basically going to set up a lot right now. If you know the cards that they're running, then I'll just leave it be. I don't want to touch on everything, but I'll go over the logs real quick at the end of the video so that you'll be able to see what they did on their turn, because they do a lot. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not really that familiar with Virtual World. All I know is that they have 1 card that can do a lot of banishing and then recycles. That's basically what a lot of decks do nowadays. Like, you don't want to read that much, so just leave it be. Yes, so this person runs Ultimate Zokin. I don't even know whether or not this is something that Virtual World decks often do, or maybe it's the person that I went against. But ultimately, right here, this is where I see the problem. So Ultimate Zokin has an ability where they can special summon a synchro monster onto their field, and then this card is basically quote-unquote untouchable to a degree. Obviously there are ways to run over things. Whenever I see boards like this, I always think to myself, if I banish it, will it help? If I get rid of monsters on their field, will it help? Is their back row really that important? So yes, true king of all calamities, excuse me, and Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. So these 2 cards are actually the ones that you want to be worried about to a degree. So this card basically makes it so that monsters can't activate their effects. This one is the same thing. So this person has 2 monster negates. So in my thought, in my head, I was thinking, okay, so at the end of it all, I need to have pendulum monsters on the field so that I can ramp up spell tokens. That's exactly what I'm just thinking. So I just summoned Magical Abductor and started doing my combo just so that I can start the spell counter fodder, because after all of this, I want to pop everything in order to get out my Mighty Master and see I got rid of all the spell tokens that, or spell counters that I accumulated in order to summon him. And I bypassed the monster effect because it's technically a spell when I summon him. Let me pause real quick. So, I believe Endymion is probably one of the lengthiest cards in the game so far, but TLDR, when it's in the pendulum zone and there's 6 or more spell counters, let's just say 6, a minimum of 6, I can get rid of all 6 and summon this card onto the field, and then basically pop cards that are the equivalent of however many cards that I can put spell counters on. So I could pop an equivalent of 4. So that's why I was able to get rid of back row, True King, Synchro, and Soken. Ideally, this kind of hurt me because maybe I should have killed Virtual World, you'll see in a bit. But because of that, I was able to bypass the monster effect wall that they had with True King and Synchro. But the problem is that the passive effect of True King still goes into effect, so I couldn't really attack on that turn. I could have OTK'd on that turn, or maybe close to an OTK, but the fact that I was able to have all of this up meant that I was able to at least prove a threat. And so they summoned QB, and from that I was able to special summon Garuda in my hand because it's basically a hand trap for special summon monsters. Right there, I tried to negate that card, but unfortunately they used Forbidden Droplet, which basically negated it, killed it. Unfortunate. So there goes my only spell trap negate. So this person is just running through combos after combos after combos, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, how could this person possibly run over and destroy everything? Well, I guess this is how. They killed that, and they link away, or not link, apologies. They exceed away to Zeus. And Zeus's effect is that it can basically send cards back to the deck. And that's what kind of hurt me, because the cards that I had on the field basically are able to stay if they were going to be destroyed, but the fact that the wording send is different, that kind of screwed me over. And so I was able to live right there, thankfully. So right here, my thought process is I need to somehow get Reflection out onto the field, because Reflection's effect is so that I can bounce something from my side of the field and their side of the field, but it has to have a minimum of 3 spell counters. So how do I do that? This is basically just praying to RNG, because Upstart Goblin could have got me a monster or could have got me anything else. Thankfully it got me this Spell Power Mastery. And Spell Power Mastery's effect allows it to get an extra token, which allowed me to get this. But unfortunately, they had infinite impermanence, which basically negated the effect, and any spell trap I put over here, as well as monster effect, gets negated. So, back to the drawing board, and I mean that literally, where I basically had to rely on Blue Boy Engine in order to get some drawing power. I was really hoping for Blue Boy so I could get rid of it and somehow get more draw power, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. This thought process right here was I needed to get spell counters so I can activate Medusa's effect, and it's basically you get to have a monster's effect, or have a monster's attack points. And it looks like they surrendered right there. I honestly believe that they would have been able to maybe run me over, but the fact that they couldn't really rely on the graveyard anymore because they banished most of the virtual world cards, as well as they probably got some dead draws, meant that they probably were exhausted out of all their cards. And additionally, I could have theoretically summoned Pendulum or the Magician card in my hand and attacked, but I didn't know whether or not I would need it, so that's why I reluctantly didn't summon it. So I'm just going to scroll through all of this because honestly, there's quite a lot, and I do apologize if you really want to go into the effects, but a usual combo for every deck consists of many cards, and so I can't show everything, unfortunately, but hopefully the slog over here on their first turn explains why they were able to do what they did. And yeah. So I hope that this video was able to explain my thought process on how an Endymion player was able to get over such a very strong board. If it was something like this for another deck, I'm not too sure whether or not I would have came to the same conclusion. But ideally, if you have monster negates on the board and you want to run it over, you rely on spells or traps, or you try to pop those cards with cards like Kaijus, where they rely on the enemies or the opponent's cards on the field in order to summon them, overriding the monster effect, similar to Lava Golem, etc. If they have a spell or trap negate, then you do the same thing, but with monsters. Hopefully you'll be able to do something like that. And if they have both on the field, then again, I think Kaijus or cards that are able to hop over that will be able to bypass. There's always a way to bypass cards. It's just how you were able to come to the conclusion. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments on things that I could have done better, please let me know, because I'm always looking to expand on my Endymion knowledge. And again, this is my deck list, and hope to see you soon. Take care.